Today we're going to be making two centipede-like carrion crawlers using some recycled materials as well as these paper fasteners and my favorite material, Baccarod, which you can pick up at almost any hardware store. Welcome back to another episode of Indaga Games. Let's get crafting. Here's the pieces already cut out, ready to go. First off is the piece of Baccarod. This is about a 3-inch piece with several grooves cut into it. They may look a little mismatched, but there's a particular method to this. These ones here on the lower part are going to be glued together to give it a slight bend for the lower part of the body. And these ones are on the upper back, which will give it a bend upwards. And then one at the base of the neck to bring the head down a little forward. So it'll sit like that on the base. Here we have pieces cut out of that cup holder. We've got some legs. As you can see, the texture of the cardboard is showing through really nice on those. Different sized chitinous type plates that I've cut out, as well as some parts for the head. You can see I've cut these little grooves into it here. Those are going to be placed These are going to be placed on that part of the head where the grooves are. As you can see, these paper fasteners are bent so that the top part will act as the eyeball of this creature, as well as the lower part acting as the jaws. And just using some simple cardstock, I've made some tentacles for the face of the creature. So first off, we're going to be gluing the body, and you want to be kind of bending this and fastening it as you move along. This stuff, of course, dries very quickly, so having this and bending it into shape as you move along the project works really well in getting this thing sealed up. I prefer to use hot glue for this type of a project instead of the tacky glue, otherwise you have to kind of hold it in place for a long time. So here we are moving along pretty quickly with this stuff. It's drying pretty nice. Sometimes the bend has too much give, and so you kind of have to go over and hit it again in some spots to kind of tighten up the curve and the crease of pieces like this. Going over some more parts of it just to give it some more strength so it doesn't tear. Next up, we're getting started with the head. Just a little bit of glue here on the cutout so that our paper fastener can sit in place. Sliding it in like that, and just having it positioned so that the bottom part of the jaw is into its correct position. Once the second one's in, you can really get the jaw looking better and into shape. It takes some plying and some prying and just getting it into place. A little bit of glue helps on the bottom part of the jaw as well. Now a little bit for the neck to get the head attached. And then sometimes it doesn't hurt to add a little bit more glue to the side of the jaws to kind of help it stay in place and give it some more strength. Next, a little bit on the back of the head so we can attach the first chitinous plate. Tightening up the edges and the corners a little bit just gives it that extra durability. And we're moving on to the next segment, bending these so that they fit around the Baccarod body, and we will continue down the line. It gets a little tight in these spots, so working your way from the bottom up in a reverse order will work as well. I was really trying to budget my space with this. And here we're going to be adding these plates here to the side of the head. Once that's in place, we're going to be adding this plate onto the tail. And now for the legs. Systematically getting these on one at a time, a little bits of glue, and then adding another glue sealant onto the final part to kind of give them some strength. As you can see, I'm kind of positioning them in such a way that it gives them kind of more of a lifelike appearance here. And some of these legs are going to be sticking up in the air like this thing's kind of in attack mode. You can get a little finicky and it can get a little stringy doing it this way, but it holds really well and this glue paints really well. Next, we're going to be installing the Cardstock Tentacles. As you can see, I kind of placed these haphazardly across the face, like over the jaws and on top of the head. And then we're just going to reinforce them with a little bit of glue, as well as run around the head, around the eyes and the jaws to kind of strengthen the head and get rid of some of those gaps to make this a little bit more seamless. And here's a wooden piece that I've painted. Once we find out which position we want this to be in, we're going to mount it onto the base. We're going to apply a big chunk of glue here. Get this guy set where we want him. Make sure to give yourself enough room for the legs to be able to mount to the base too. You don't want them hanging over the edge too much. A little bit can look really cool, but too much can kind of mess up the look you're going for. As you can see, you're gonna have to hold this down on the glue just a little bit, but it does dry quickly, so you don't have to hold it down too long. But just long enough that you can get these legs put into their correct position, and so they stay that way. Some tweezers is gonna help us get those into place a little easier. These ones can get tricky, but they can be done. A little bit of holding it in place while it dries quickly. Starting to look really nice. And then we're going to clean up a little bit of the excess glue and some of the strings. And then here we're going to be adding some glue to the underside of these upper legs, just to kind of give it more of like an attack pose. So pinching them a little bit and then waiting for them to dry. It looks really cool. Now we can finish cleaning up those strings. They can kind of get everywhere during this part of the project. We're going to add a little bit more glue to the belly, give it some more durability. Adding some little rib-like marks along the back with the glue gives it more of an insect or worm-like kind of feel to it. It really shows up later in the finished product. And here's two of them. Both different poses, but the same type of strategy, same type of pieces. You can crank out a lot of these. Sanding down the bit of the paper fastener a little bit so it paints easier. Trying out a new style of Mod Podge, I kind of made my own, which is going to act like a base coat of paint and a sealant. So using a little bit of water, some of this cheap school tacky glue, as well as some black paint. We're going to mix this together, and it should give us a nice solution to coat these guys. After stirring it, I wasn't quite happy with the texture and the darkness, so I added a little bit more glue and some more black paint until I finally got the thickness and the dark coloration I was going for. Now I was ready to apply. I had to coat this on pretty thick to get in all the gaps and cracks and cover this thing pretty well. The tentacles are always a little bit tricky with these kind of projects. But in the end, the result is worth it. They're a little bit more sturdy, durable, and a little bit water resistant as well. Not waterproof, but they are very durable. My wife gave me a really good idea to give these a sickly pale look since they're called Carrioncrawlers. So starting with that, we're going to be using this pink, white, and a little bit of beige for the tentacles to give them like a fleshy pink look. Then the main body is going to be this white and beige. And the chitinous plates and legs are going to have a tan color mixed with a little bit of white to look like bone. And this bluish gray color, as well as the white, is going to be the base for the eyes to give them kind of like a pale blind look. And then finally we're going to dry brush over with this burnt orange just to kind of give it a little bit of this dusty depth to them. So here's what it looks like without the dry brushing. Looks very, very good. I'm very happy with how these turned out, and getting the dry brush on really brings out the colors. Now we're going to go over parts of the body with this triple thick gloss that I picked up at the craft store. We're going to do the tentacles, the eyes, and the main body of these critters. And here's the finished product. I think these turned out really cool looking. They really pop, and the gloss comes through not too overly dramatic, but just subtle enough that it has the effect that I was hoping for. And a little bit of gloss on the eyes really makes them shine in the right angle of light. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you again in the next video. So goodbye for now, but until we meet again.